Hi, welcome back to another video of this learning C++ journey. So in this tutorial, you are going to learn about arrays within the classes or the arrays of classes. So without further wasting any time, let's get started. So until now, we were dealing with some simple data types like integers, floats, or like strings, okay? But we haven't done any kind of example or exercise on the basis of array data within our class. So in this tutorial, you will learn about that, okay? So let's start. First of all, we will need a class and we will name it as a test class, and after that we will have its curl brackets. Okay. Within our curl brackets, first of all, we will start with the public access specifier, and we will have an array. So first of all, let's have an array, integer array of size 3, let's say. Okay. Now let's assume that we have a situation of like calculating results for students. Okay, so student has a name, so we will have a string name, and we will have integer array, so we will use this array to store the marks. Okay, so marks. So we have one data type as integer array and another data type as a simple string. Now what to do? So my choice is to design a function, a member function, with no return data type. By the help of this function, we will initialize some values. We will assign some values to these marks. Okay, so let's have it. Take input marks. Okay, or we can say just in simple words, marks input. So I have marks input. I'm not going to pass any parameters. And what I'll do here is cout, enter the subject marks. Okay. And I'll print it here, and I will move the other outputs on the next line. Now, simply we will just have a for loop like this, and we will start from integer I is equals to 0, I is less than 3, I plus plus, and after that we will print some message. We will say that subject number will write I plus 1. So in order to get a correct number, because we know that it is index and index starts from 0, so we do not want to have a subject 0 here, so it will start from subject 1, then subject 2, then subject 3, etc. Okay, and what we are going to do here is that we will take input cin, and we will store our data into marks array. So marks and I. All right, so this is the same procedure as we used to do it previously in our simple arrays, but just we have it in our class right now. Okay, now we will create an object test t1. Okay, now let's say we have a t1 and we will be storing some marks. Okay, and let's have the print output as well. Okay, void print data. All right, so we will write cout student name, and we will write it as a name and del, and we will copy this whole for loop and we will paste it over here, and instead of cin we will write cout, and we will write and del. Okay, and we will remove this. Now what we need, another thing that we need is that we have to get the input for these strings as well. So for that purpose, I will use a setter here, a simple setter. So I'll write set, or maybe I can say void set string or set name. Within set name we will receive a string, and we will receive nn, and here we will write it as name is equals to nn. So this function will be used to set the name, and this function will be used to take inputs and store it in our subject marks. So let's start with the first one. So in main function, first of all, we will call the member function that will be input name. Okay, so we will write it as a set name. So this is set name, and in set name we will pass a student name as student1. Now after that, what we will do, that we would like to have marks of student. Then after that we would like to have the result. So let's say we want the print data. So let's run our program. So the function is actually marks input, not a input marks. So it's just a simple mistake. Sorry for that. All right, so we have enter the subject mark. So we would like to have 20, 20, and 20. Okay, student name is student1. The subject marks are 20, 20, 20. So here is some confusion due to this, that now it will be all right, everything. Now it's right. So 20, 20, or 30. So we have got a student1, 120, and 2020 as well. So it's working. So we have successfully have taken the input from our user and store it in an array within the class. So this is the simple syntax to work with. So you can use the same methodology for private as well. But the thing that you would have to do is to make these member functions public. Okay, so it should make us able to access these member functions outside the class. So what happened in this code, that we had a class name called test, and in which we suppose that we are taking input for 3 subjects of student. It can be any other case as well. So just arrays are used for the same purpose that we have been discussing, like storing same data type multiple elements. Okay, so this is same data type multiple elements, so you can use float as well for the marks, which is more preferable. And also we have designed a void marks simple function, member function, that can be used to store to take input from the user and store it within our array. Now the question you may ask, that why I didn't use the setters or getters. I could have used them, but the syntax for that, and it is going to be a bit more complicated. It's not that easy, as simple as this. Okay, so this was more understandable and simple and clean. So that's why I preferred this one to discuss here. Okay, we may have some kind of example in future just to get the idea of the other syntaxes and the other methods as well, but for now we will work with this simple method. So this member function was used to get input from the user and store it within our array. Now this setter was used to set the value of this name. Okay, so you can use a member function as well to set the value of your string. Now what is this print data member function? So basically a simple function, but it is a member function, so that means that it has the access to the private members of the class as well. So we have just defined a simple function that is printing the elements of an array, and here we have an object, and with the help of object we are accessing different member functions like set name, marks input, and print data. So this was it until now. Now let me give you a situation. We have talked about multiple marks. what if the situation is that you have multiple objects? For example, you are not going to make a result card for just only one student. There must be some multiple students, so there would be like 10 students, 20 students, or even hundreds of students. So then what will you do? Then there is another concept that is called arrays of classes, or just like arrays of structures, you can have the arrays of classes as well. So let's see how can we do that. Okay, so let's have a look. So just a simple same syntax as we are used to it to declare array. So we will write first of all the data type name. So here the data type is the class name, so which is the test that I have already write. Now next thing is going to be declaring an object, but this time we are not going with the simple object, rather we are going to have the syntax for the arrays of classes or objects. So I'll write the size of an array. Let's say I have 3 students, so I'll write this. So this is the same syntax as you are used to see in arrays. So in arrays what we write is that we write integer, then after that array, and then size of it, and then so on. So this is the same thing. Instead of integer data type, we are using the data type, the user defined data type. So the user defined data type should have the user defined some name. Okay, so it is test in this case, and we can have any variable name. So we have t just to denote the test, and we have the size of an array. Okay, so this is the simplest way to do it. Now let's just implement an example that how can we access the member variables or member functions of the array of classes. Now the first thing that you guys already do is to write a for loop. So what we will do the same here as well, and we will write this, okay, and increment the I plus plus. Now in the previous topics when we were dealing with the array, so they were like array and then the index number. Now the thing has just changed a bit, that is we are now dealing with the object. So we will write the object name, the index, and after that we will write the dot operator. So this is just the addition, so you can simply consider this as the modification in your conceptual understanding. So if you have very good concepts from the past in arrays and functions, so the only thing that you have to learn is the dot operator, and we have discussed the dot operator in the beginning. So it is used to access the members of the class. So we use dot operator. Now first thing that you want is the set name. So I'll modify the set name function a bit. In set name, instead of passing something, what I will do is that I won't pass any kind of parameters. What I'll do is that I will write a message, enter the student name. So in this way I will call this function and just simply write the name of student instead of passing it again and again. So I think so it is much better way to do it. Okay, so I will write name. So this is C in name. So here we will call the name function. Then after that, what do we need? We need a function of take input marks. Okay, so we will take input marks, and in printing we have to do that same thing here as well. So okay, now here we will use another loop for the printing purpose. So we will copy this loop and we will paste it after it. Okay, so just the only change would be instead of this, and we will write a print data. Okay, and this is not input marks, this is marks input. Okay, so marks input. Now let's run our program. So enter the student name, let's say student 1, And for student 1, we will use 10, 10, 10. And then again student 2. And then we will use 20, and then 20, then 20. Then after that, enter this another student name. So student 3. Then we can write 30, 30, and 30. So let's have a look at the output. So these are the input values. Enter the student name. So this is first student input, this is second, then third. After that, these are the printed results. So as you guys can see that with the help of arrays within the class, we were able to store multiple same kind of elements with the help of arrays. Also with the help of member functions, we were able to assign some values to those array elements. And after that, due to the demand of multiple objects, we can utilize the concepts of array of classes or array of the objects, and we used arrays to store multiple object values, so it can exceed more limits as well, like you can have the size like 10, 20, 30. So this can give you an idea that you can actually design a system by now that will be able to store the result and data of multiple students of your class, and then you will be able to perform some operations over it. We will be doing some examples, but for now, in this lesson and in these tutorials, I'm just trying to give you basic ideas and beginner level ideas and familiarity with the concepts related to classes. We will be slowly upgrading our level in learning classes more and more. Okay, so this was the basic idea of arrays within the class and arrays of classes. Now, in the arrays section, we learned about dynamic arrays, and we learned that the dynamic allocation utilizes the concept of heap memory allocation. Now, you may ask or you may have idea that maybe we are building so many objects and so many classes, maybe we will get out of space and we won't be able to store more data, or we won't be able to run our program due to crashes. Now you can have that dynamic memory allocation for your classes as well. The syntax will remain the same. I'll just tell you the initialization method. So for example, cout, you are taking the size of your class based on your user input, so it's much preferable that you use dynamic memory allocation. So we will write it as enter the size of array class. Okay, then after that we will have integer size, and after that we will write it as c in size. Okay, here what I'll do is that the method is simple. Star, we will write t, the name of whatever you want to use the name for your object, and then you will write new keyword. As you guys already know, it is used for the dynamic allocation, and it will return the address of the pointer as well. Let's have a look at what the next step is going to be. So the next step that is going to be is just to use the data type and use the size. So let me just give you a quick walk through what we just did. So in dynamic allocation, what we had to do, that we will write the data type name, then after that we will write the array name with the pointer on it. After that we will write a new keyword, and then we will write the data type, and then we will write the size. Okay, so the only change in that syntax and this syntax is that we are using user defined data type. So user defined data type has a unique name, so you have already defined your user data type, that is by the name of test. So instead of using integer, we are using just test. So if I run this program, this will run for sure. So enter the size of array class, we will enter 3, and enter the student name, we will write it student 1, and marks like 11, 11, 11, and we will write the student name 2. So student 2, and then 20, 20, 20. Then we will write student 3. Then we will write 30, 30, 30. And as you guys can see that we have got the output successfully, and we were able to run our program. Okay, so this was the same example as we did before this, but that was with the static allocation, and now we are using dynamic memory allocation. So it is much more preferable in situations where your size can be flexible. You want some flexible size, or your size may be large value, so then you can use dynamic allocation. It can be very useful and it is more preferable. Okay, so here is another thing that you must do whenever you use the new keyword for dynamic memory allocation, that is delete keyword. So we are using arrays, so we will delete a t. Okay, so this is the syntax for deleting. So it will avoid some memory leakages or other memory kind of issues as well. Okay, so it is preferable to do this, to remove your data, or to free up the space. Let's say you have some doubt that maybe you are thinking that why not we have dynamic allocation for these marks as well. Maybe we have a situation that we have large sets of data, we have to take a lot of inputs, so it's much preferable to use dynamic allocation. So you are right, we can do that here as well, but for that you have to change a bit. So what you will do here, that you will do that you will write a pointer here, one thing first, and then you will write what equals to new, and then data type and size, let's say 3. So this is the same thing that was previously done, but right now we are using dynamic memory allocation. Okay, so for the marks as well, so we learned about static allocations within the class, then of the class static allocation, then we learned about dynamic allocation within the class, and as well as dynamic allocation of the class arrays as well. Now if you want this size to be flexible, you can have you can add some function or maybe a constructor that will take input from you, and with the help of which you will decide what kind of size I need for that object as well. So you can do that as well. We will practice these kind of concepts in our future practice problems, but for now you must know these basics. Okay, so I expect you guys that you have got the basic idea of arrays within the classes and arrays of the classes as well, both with the help of dynamic allocation or static allocation, both. So here is a concept that is going to be much preferable way of using dynamic arrays within your class. So I'll tell you that syntax. So instead of writing here the new keyword and integer size of your array, so what we will do, we will use constructor. So I'll write test, and within the test what I will do, I will write marks is equals to new integer this size. Okay, now we already know that the constructor is always called whenever the object is created, but what we can do, another thing that we can do is that we can have a destructor as well. Okay, so destructor is called whenever the object is finished. Okay, so what will happen here, that we will use delete this, and what we will delete marks. So this is much preferable way of using dynamic memory allocation within your classes. So what is happening here, basically we have a integer pointer to the marks, and then whenever the object is created, so object is this. So whenever the object is created, what will happen, the constructor will be called, and the constructor will decide the value, the size of your dynamic memory or the dynamic array. And the destructor, when everything is done, when all the member functions and all the operations are done, the destructor is always called. So with the help of destructor, we will delete the data of marks, so it will prevent us from memory leakages and other some memory related issues as well. So let's run this program. So as you guys can see, it is working as well. So yeah, this was a concept related to the dynamic arrays within the classes as well. So practice this, and once again I'll tell you this is more preferable way. So I used the simple method before just to give you an idea, and this is a bit more advanced, not so much but a bit more advanced. So use this if you are dealing dynamic arrays within your class. Okay, so this was it for this tutorial video. I hope you guys have got the basic idea of arrays within the classes and arrays of the classes. So in the next video, we will learn and discover more about the classes. So I'll meet you guys in the next video.